I just want to hear his voice one more time. That is all I am asking you. That voicemail was not meant for you, Rebecca. It was never meant for you. Rebecca, you have to let go. What are you saying to me right now?
He called me that night. Not you. He called me because I was the only one who knew the truth.
The truth about what, Nosy? The truth about what? About everything he could not say to your face. Then say it to me. Right now, say it to me.
She had kept it for 11 months. Through the funeral, through the condolence visits and the relatives who came and ate and cried and left. Through the long nights when the bed felt too wide and the silence felt like something alive. Through the paperwork and the bank visits and the slow grinding machinery of becoming a widow at 34, Rebecca Okafor had kept one thing that nobody knew about. A voicemail. 47 seconds long, recorded at 11:22 on a Thursday night, the same night her husband Daniel Okafor drove his car into the rain and never came home. She had never played it all the way through. She had pressed play 4 times in 11 months and stopped herself before his voice could finish the sentence it had started. Because once she heard the end of it, she knew, the way you know certain things in your bones, that something would change. And she was not ready for anything else to change. Not yet. Not after everything that had already been taken from her. So, she kept it, locked behind a screen, a 47-second piece of the man she had loved for 9 years, sitting quietly in her phone like a light she was afraid to turn on. Daniel Okafor was many things. A civil engineer, a man who burned his toast every single morning and refused to admit it, a husband who remembered her mother's birthday before she did, a man who slow danced with her in the kitchen on ordinary Tuesdays for no reason at all. He had been her person, completely, entirely, without question. Or so she had believed. They had built their life in a quiet part of Lekki, in a house with a yellow door that Daniel had painted himself on a Saturday afternoon, while she stood on the steps laughing at his technique. They had tried for children and failed twice, and held each other through both. They had fought about money and made up before midnight. They had done all the ordinary sacred things that a marriage is made of. And then, one rainy Thursday, a truck ran a red light on the Ozumba Mbadiwe Expressway, and Daniel was gone. The grief that followed was not dramatic. It did not announce itself in screaming or cementing a Thyranthia's collapse. It arrived quietly, the way a tide comes in, slowly covering everything until Rebecca looked around one morning and realized she was completely submerged, breathing underwater, going through the motions of a life that no longer felt like hers. She returned to work after 2 months. She answered phone calls, she attended her cousin's wedding in Abuja, and smiled in photographs. She did everything that was expected of a woman who was healing. But every night, she came home to that yellow door, and every night she sat alone in a house full of Daniel's things. And every night, the voicemail sat in her phone, patient, waiting 47 seconds of something she could not yet face. It was Ngozi who changed everything. Daniel's younger sister had always been polished, the kind of woman who wore blazers to family gatherings and spoke in complete sentences during arguments. She had been present throughout the mourning period, helpful in the way that people are helpful when they are also managing their own guilt. She had not known this then. She had simply been grateful for the company. It was on a Sunday evening, 11 months after the funeral, that Ngozi arrived at the yellow door unannounced. Rebecca had been sitting on the floor of the living room, something she did sometimes, when the chair felt too formal and the grief needed somewhere low to settle. She had Daniel's old wristwatch in her hand and his photographs spread around her like a constellation. She was not crying. She had moved past the crying stage into something quieter and more permanent. She let Ngozi in, made tea she didn't drink, sat across from her sister-in-law in the amber light of the living room and waited because something in Ngozi's face said this was not a regular visit. Ngozi spoke carefully at first, small words, gentle approaches, the way someone walks toward a fire, testing the heat before committing. And then she said it. "Rebecca, the voicemail Daniel left that night, I need to talk to you about it." Rebecca went very still. "How do you know about the voicemail?" Ngozi looked at her hands. "Because he called me first." The room did not move. The lamplight did not flicker. But something shifted in the air between the two women, something that could not be unshifted. Rebecca said, "He called you." Not a question, a repetition, the kind you do when your mind needs a moment to catch up to your ears. "Yes. He called you before he called me." "He didn't call you, Rebecca." Ngozi's voice was soft, but it landed like stone. "The voicemail on your phone, he meant to send it to me. He dialed the wrong number. He didn't realize." Rebecca set the watch wrist down on the floor very carefully, the way you set something down when your hands have stopped being trustworthy. "Why?" she said. "Why was he calling you at 11 p.m. in the rain?" And Ngozi told her. It came out in pieces, the way confessions always do, never cleanly, always with pauses that hurt more than the words. Daniel had been hiding something for 3 years. Not another woman, not a second family. Something Rebecca had not imagined because she had not known it was possible to fear it. Daniel had been sending money, quietly, consistently, from an account Rebecca didn't know existed, sending it to a woman in Port Harcourt, a woman named Adayeze, who had once been Ngozi's closest friend and who had, 7 years before Daniel married Rebecca, Daniel's first love. Adayeze had reached out to Ngozi 2 years into Daniel and Rebecca's marriage. She had a child, a little boy. She said the boy was Daniel's. Ngozi had gone to her brother. Daniel had not denied it. He had wept. He had begged his sister for silence, promising he would handle it, promising, always promising that he was not the man this made him look like. He had sent money every month. He had visited Port Harcourt 4 times in 3 years under the cover of work trips. And Ngozi, who loved her brother more than she loved the truth, had kept his secret. The night he died, he had called her. He had told her he was ready to tell Rebecca everything. He had said he was tired of living between 2 lives. He had said that Rebecca deserved the truth and that he was going to give it to her that same night, the moment he walked through the yellow door. He never walked through the yellow door. Instead, his phone, in the chaos of the moment, with rain on the screen and tears in his eyes, had dialed one contact below Ngozi in his list, Rebecca. And the last thing Daniel Okafor ever said, meant for his sister's ears, had sat in Rebecca's phone for 11 months, unplayed, preserved, waiting. Rebecca did not speak for a long time after Ngozi finished. She sat with it, all of it, the weight of 3 years of a hidden child, of money leaving their account like a slow leak, of work trips that was something else entirely, of a husband who looked her in the eye across 1,000 ordinary dinners and carried this. She sat with the image of a little boy in Port Harcourt who shared Daniel's face and had never known his father's name spoken in a house with a yellow door. She sat with the grief of losing Daniel twice, once to the rain and now to the truth. When she finally picked up her phone, her hands were steady. She played the voicemail. 47 seconds. Daniel's voice came through, low, urgent, slightly breathless, the way he sounded when he was driving in the rain because he always gripped the wheel too tight when it rained. Ngozi, it's me. I'm on my way home. I'm going to tell her tonight, everything.
I know you've been asking me to do this for 2 years, and I kept saying I needed more time. But I don't have more time. I don't want more time. I want to be clean. I want to go home and look at my wife and not have anything between us. Tell Adeze. Tell her the boy will be taken care of. I will not abandon him, but I cannot keep living like this. I love Rebecca. I love her, and she deserves to know who she married. Pray for me. I'm almost home. Static. Rain. Silence. Rebecca pressed stop. She did not cry. She sat in the amber light of the living room that Daniel had painted and furnished and filled with 11 years of himself, and she breathed, slowly, deliberately, the way you breathe when you are deciding who you are going to be on the other side of something. Then she looked at Ngozi. You kept this from me for 11 months. Ngozi's eyes filled. I kept it from you for 3 years. You sat at his funeral. You held my hand. You helped me pack his clothes. Rebecca, you watched me grieve a man I thought I knew completely, and you said nothing. Ngozi broke. The composed woman in the blazer and the gold earrings came apart at the seams, quietly, the way things fall apart when they have been held together by guilt for too long. She wept with her hands over her face, her shoulders shaking. All the architecture of her composure collapsed on Rebecca's living room. Rebecca watched her. She did not comfort her, but she did not send her away. I am not going to pretend this doesn't change things, because it changes everything. I will need time, a lot of time, and you will give me that time without pushing, without explaining, without asking for forgiveness before I am ready to give it. Ngozi nodded, unable to speak. The boy in Port Harcourt, how old is he? 6, Ngozi whispered. Rebecca closed her eyes. A 6-year-old boy who had lost his father to the same rain that took her husband. A child who had done nothing wrong and inherited the consequences of everything that had. She will not suffer, she said quietly. Not for Daniel, not for Adeze, for the child. She said it plainly, without drama, without performance, because that was who Rebecca Okafor was. Even broken, even betrayed, even sitting on the floor of a house that suddenly felt like it was built on ground she had never truly seen. She was the kind of woman
who looked at an innocent child and chose mercy over bitterness. The months that followed were not easy. They were not meant to be. Rebecca consulted a lawyer. She had Daniel's hidden account traced and its remaining balance redirected toward a trust for the boy. A quiet, legal, undramatic arrangement that asked nothing from Adaizi except that the child would know his father had tried, in the end, to do right by him. She did not contact Adaizi. She had nothing to say to her that needed to be said. She took a long leave from work and traveled to Calabar, a city she had always loved and never visited enough. She stayed for 6 weeks. She walked along the marina in the early mornings. She ate pepper soup in roadside restaurants. She sat in the quiet of a rented room and let herself feel everything she had been holding underwater for nearly a year. The grief, the anger, the love that had nowhere left to go. The strange tenderness she still felt for a man who lied to her and loved her at the same time, and died before he could reconcile the two. She kept the voicemail. She did not play it again, but she kept it, not out of pain, and not out of punishment, but because 47 seconds of a man choosing honesty, even imperfectly, even too late, was still something. It was still him, and she was not ready to delete the last real thing he ever did. When she returned to Lekki, she was not the same woman who had left. She was quieter, sharper, lighter in ways that surprised even her. She repainted the yellow door, kept it yellow, because the color had never belonged to Daniel's secrets. It had always been hers, and she began slowly to rebuild. Ngozi came to see her 3 months after the night of the confession. She came without announcement, without blazer, without gold earrings. She came in a plain dress with her hands empty and her eyes asking a question she was too ashamed to say out loud. Rebecca opened the door. She let her in.
She made tea, and this time they both drank it. They did not hug, they did not cry. They sat across from each other in the amber light and spoke slowly and honestly. 2 women who had both loved a complicated man and were both learning in different ways to carry what he had left behind. Forgiveness, Rebecca decided, was not a single moment. It was a direction, a slow turning towards something better, not because the wrong had been erased, but because she refused to let it be the last word. She was 35 years old. She had a yellow door and a voicemail she would probably never delete, and a capacity for grace that no betrayal had managed to destroy. That, she thought, was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. Before you go, if Daniel had lived and told Rebecca the truth that night, should she have stayed or walked away? Drop your answer below. We want to hear from you. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs it today. And drop a comment. We want to hear from you. God bless you.